Okay guys, I am going to do a video of yesterday's lesson. Actually, I did it yesterday, but I couldn't upload it to YouTube, so I'm going to try it again. So this is kind of frustrating doing the second lesson. Let's try it again. I'm going to start on page 215 from lesson 1011 in math. And I'm going to do a few examples for the kids that had trouble yesterday, okay? I'm going to start off with number 3. First of all, I'm just going to copy the problems, and it says that we have to go from least to greatest on the fractions. So I'm going to copy the fractions. It's going to be 7 1/2, 7 1/3, and then 7 2/3. So these three fractions, I have to put them in order from least to greatest. The first thing you have to do is look at the whole number. They all have sevens. So what we have to do next is look at the fraction, the 1/2, 1/3, and 2/3. So in order to compare the fractions, I am going to make them all like fractions. I'm going to rename them. So let's start off with 1/2. Uh, I am going to, in order to rename the fraction, we need to have the same denominator. Like, and the denominator is a bottom number, and that means that they're going to be called like fractions. So those ones have 3. I can't change this one into a 3 because 2 times nothing makes 3. So I am going to use 6 for all of them. And that means that if I multiply 2 times something equals to 6, 3 times something also equals to 6. And that's pretty easy. So I'll start off with 1/2. I'm going to multiply 2 times what equals 6? 2 times 3. 2 times 3 equals 6. So then whatever I do to the bottom, I do to the top. So since I multiplied the bottom one times 3, I'll multiply the numerator times 3. So 3 times 1 is 3. So that first one is 3 6. It goes with 7. Okay, now let's do the 1/3. 3 times what equals 6? 3 times 2 makes 6. And since I multiplied the bottom denominator by 2, I'm going to multiply the numerator by 2. 2 times 1 is 2. So I got 3 6 and 2 6. So this one is 7 and 3 6, 7 and 2 6. Now let's do this one right here. 3, again, I'm going to multiply times 2 to make 6. 3 times 2 makes 6, which means since I multiplied 3 times 2, I multiplied the top one by 2. 2 times 2. So now I got like fractions because they all have the same denominator. So they all have the same whole number. So now let's go from least to greatest. And it's easy to compare like fractions because since you have the same denominator, just look at the numerators. Which one is the smallest one? This one right here, right? It's a 2. So that means that it goes with that one. So 7 1/3 is the least, smallest one. And then after 2 6, it's going to be 3 6 or 4 6. Well, 3 is smaller than 4, so it's 3 6, and that goes with this one, 7 1/2. And finally, that leaves this one right here, which is 4 6 at 7 2/3. So there you have it from least to greatest: 7 1/3, 7 1/2, and 7 2/3. Let's do another example that's going to be very similar. I'm going to do number 4, and I'm just going to copy the fractions the way that they are. 3/8, 5/8, and 1/4. So these ones do not have whole numbers like number 3 did. These ones are just fractions. So again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to turn them into like fractions. So I'm going to rename the fractions. I already have 8s right there, and that 4, that's easy to change to an 8. All I got to do is multiply by 2. So I'm going to do that right here. 4 times 2 makes 8. And since I multiplied the 4 times 2, I'm going to multiply top one by 2. 2 times 1 is 2. So now we have 3/8, 5/8, and 2/8. That's very easy again because they're like fractions. The denominators are 8s. So look at the numerator. The 2 is less than 5 and less than 3. So the 2/8 goes with 1/4. So that's going to be the least. And then you have 5/8 and 3/8. Of course, 3 is less than 5. So then it's going to be 3/8, and finally the 5/8 right there. So again, from least to greatest is 1/4, 3/8, and 5/8. So that's number 4. There's 2 examples. Let's try the next one as a third example. Okay, so now we're at number 5. And I'm going to copy the fractions down from the book. And I'm doing page 215 of lesson 1011 in math. So number 5 is 5/12, 1/6, and 3/12. So you got no whole number over here, just fractions. And look, you got 2/12s already. So I'm going to change this 6 to turn it into a 12. And of course, that's easy too. 6 times what makes 12? 6 times 2, right? So 6 times 2 makes 12. So since I multiplied the bottom one by 2, I'm going to multiply the top one by 2. 2 times 1 makes 2. So now I got 5/12, 2/12s, and 3/12s. So all you got to do is compare the numerator because the denominators are all the same, which is 12. So you have a 5, a 2, and a 3. The 2 is the smallest. So that goes with 1/6. 1/6 is the smallest. And then you got 3/12s and 5/12. That's easy. So 3 is less than 5. So now you have 3/12s and then 5/12s. That's pretty simple, don't you think, guys? How about one last example? Number 6. So I'm going to copy 9 and 3/10. That's from the book. 8 and 9/10. That's from the book too. And finally, 9 and 7/10. This one has whole numbers. The 9, 8, and 9. So we already know that 8 is less than 9. So then that means this fraction is going to go first, 8 and 9/10. So what I got to do now is compare 9 and 3/10 and 9 and 7/10. Since they have the same whole number, let's compare the fractions. But look, they are like fractions because they have the denominator of 10. So all you got to do is look at the numerator. That's a 3, that's a 7, and 3 is less than 7. So that's pretty much easy. Let's set up this one first because it's the whole number 8, which is less than 9. So 8 and 9/10 goes first. And the next bigger one, well, that's a 9, that's a 9. And then you look at the fraction, that's a 3, and that's a 7. 3 is less than 7. So this one goes next. 9 and 3/10. And then the last one, 9 and 7/10. So there's some examples. We did number 3, 4, 5, and 6. 4 examples. I want you guys to finish up the page. Work all the way up to number 16 on page 215. Okay? And then we can talk about it. Maybe we'll have a Google class meeting. We can talk about this, okay? So thank you. I'm going to try and upload this and I'm going to put a link. I'm going to upload this to YouTube and I'm going to put a link and we'll go from there. Thank you.